Hostin. Her husband accused of committing federal insurance fraud in a lawsuit. Dr. Emmanuel Manny Hostin, an orthopedic surgeon and husband of The View co-host Sunny Hostin, is accused in December lawsuit fraudulently billing insurance. By the way, this is a Daily Caller story I'm reading. The lawsuit alleges Hostin knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services in exchange for kickbacks and or compensation, and names him among nearly 200 defendants in one of New York's largest RICO cases.
I agree with mostly everything that's been said. I mean, we know that, only about 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system. And, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance, and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life to do.
What she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just so silly to say. It's not a well thought out.
To be, if you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television.
That's The Spark, a lawsuit with nearly 200 names, a $450 million fraud case, and right at the center, Sunny Hostin's husband. For years, Sunny built her brand as the moral compass of daytime television, lecturing on ethics, politics, and social justice. But now, with federal accusations looming over her household, the stage has shifted. And Joe Rogan? He didn't miss a beat. With one line, he turned the scandal into a national punchline, framing The View as a collapsing circus of hypocrisy. What follows comes straight from public broadcasts, and Rogan's own words. But that's only the surface. Because what's ahead isn't just a lawsuit, it's a $450 million scandal that could shake the very image Sunny Hostin built on live television.
Sunny's very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
That's sort of, I think the other ones, there's a couple of the other ones, don't have to name any names, who are just very dull-minded. But I think Sunny's not one of them. I think she's smart, but captured.
According to a new lawsuit obtained by Page Six, the orthopedic surgeon was one of 200 defendants named in one of the biggest racketeer influence and corrupt organization cases ever filed in New York. Emmanuel was accused of federal insurance fraud and, quote, getting kickbacks by performing surgery and billing a company that insured taxi companies and Uber and Lyft drivers.
That morning, in a brightly lit Manhattan studio, the chatter on The View rolled as usual. The hosts leaned in, trading lines with the kind of confidence that comes from years of daytime routine. But outside that set, another screen told a very different story. Headlines flashed, orthopedic surgeon named in $450 million RICO case. The name on the page, Emmanuel Hostin, Sunny's husband, one of nearly 200 defendants accused of performing unnecessary surgeries on taxi, Uber, and Lyft drivers, then billing insurance companies for inflated payouts. And just as the headline circled, Rogan delivered his verdict from a podcast mic.
It's just The View, just a person, the Sunny Hostin that we all love from one of my favorite shows on The View. And it's always, Tom, what'd you always say? It's always the people that always do the pointing. And it always comes back to them, all right? So when you said this is the largest RICO case ever filed in the state of New York, you guys wrap that around your brain. That's bigger than the mafia.
Hit subscribe now, because the next twist makes this even harder to ignore. The comparison landed like a gut punch. For decades, RICO was a law reserved for mobsters and crime families. Now, it was being used in a case that touched the household of The View's most self-assured moral voice. And while his attorneys dismissed the lawsuit as a stunt by a near-bankrupt insurer, the scale alone was enough to rattle the image Sunny had worked so carefully to build on television.
I've been waiting my whole life for this one. Orthopedic surgeon and husband for The View host Sunny Hostin has been named in a federal lawsuit alleging insurance fraud. She got on television. She got in. She run these women. Tell me why she got her husband is named in a lawsuit in insurance fraud, and I'm gonna show you exhibit. Let me say exhibit B. Can you show this to the jury? Roll it, Nick.
Doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance.
What?
And they're talking about threatening him with insurance fraud. I would say you could get about 20 years in prison, so that's a death sentence for him.
Right now, Sunny Hostin wasn't just another co-host anymore. She had become the headline, the moral judge of daytime TV suddenly connected to one of the largest fraud cases in the state. You could almost picture the atmosphere inside the View studio. Bright lights, audience applause, and a tension that cut through the set like static. Every glance towards Sunny carried the unspoken question. How does the self-proclaimed guardian of ethics defend herself when her own household is under fire? For viewers at home, it was the ultimate twist. The voice of righteousness now standing in a storyline that felt one part legal thriller, one part tragic comedy.
Here's all I hear from her. America's violent, America's racist, America's bad. Okay. I challenge you, Sunny, and this is Constantine Kissin actually was saying something about this. Find me a country that's not racist. Find me a country anywhere in the world that wasn't founded on violence. Find me a country that is perfect. Find me a country that doesn't have any issues. So when you're comparing America to Utopia, yeah, we're going to look pretty bad. But if you compare America to literally every country on the history of the world, we're doing pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And not only are we pretty damn good, we're the greatest country to ever exist.
A Holocaust, World War III, and slavery. And I don't know if you guys forgot, she was on that PBS show, Finding Your Roots. They did the background check. Her great-grandfather owned slaves.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
It's like the biggest hypocrites
I don't
on
want to
the
spend
planet.
For years, Sunny built her persona on The View as the one who set the rules of morality, dissecting politics, and lecturing America on ethics. But now, the courtroom spotlight had flipped. Suddenly, it wasn't her commentary under review, it was her credibility.
I mean, Pat, you're married. Tom, you're married. If your husband's doing something, if he's allegedly doing something like this, you guys would know if your wives were up to some nefarious stuff. Let's just not forget who she is. She's been, for years, lecturing America about morality, inequality, systemic failures, and look at her track record. How many times has she had to go on in the past 2 months and look at the camera and do a legal apology for all the stuff that she said on the show?
The scandal alone was enough to raise eyebrows. But what turned it into a spectacle was Rogan. Because while The View sat silent, he said out loud what others only whispered. And trust me, you'll want to hear exactly how he put it.
In fairness, though, I mean, The View has to be, if you average out The View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever.
Person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and just fucking, it's nothing
just
there.
Go for it. Yeah,
there's nothing there.
So Joe leaned forward, eyes narrowing, and spoke with the ease of someone pointing out the obvious. To him, The View wasn't a round table of thinkers. It was noise, half-baked arguments tossed out like unfinished stand-up routines. He shook his head, almost amused, as if Sunny's reasoning had collapsed under its own weight before it even left her mouth.
When I was on there, I really had no idea how it was going to land with the audience. So I just went in there, did my thing. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know who Sunny Hostin was. I actually still really don't know. So I wasn't expecting necessarily for her to kind of try to ambush me in that way and attack my character in that way. And I responded to it in the moment, as I do.
Is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies infested hen house.
And at the same time, it seemed like the most interesting part was their audience seemed to be on my side.
Yes.
Then came the jab that landed hardest. Rogan called the panel what so many viewers whispered, among the dumbest voices on television. The studio audience laughed nervously, but the punchline stuck. It wasn't just about Sunny anymore, it was about the entire stage she stood on. For Rogan, it was comedy. For Sunny, it was something closer to tragedy. Years of moral authority suddenly reduced to a late-night joke. And as the clip raced across social media, one truth became impossible to ignore. When the moral high horse stumbles in public, it rarely gets back up without scars.
I don't love you, but I also hate that squawking bird, so I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show, if the CIA is engineering, Antifa and fucking the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set of The View. I mean, they have brought in the lowest tier of the, what is it, the Y chromosome?
No, double X.
These are people who should not be allowed out of the house. They have a national platform. I mean, it is crazy. They have no idea. These people have never read a book.
And there's versions of it.
Rogan's words were still echoing online when the spotlight shifted back to The View. Normally, this was the moment for sharp retorts or defiant laughs. Instead, nothing. The same host who made a living calling out others suddenly had no script for themselves. For viewers, it felt like the stage lights had dimmed on purpose. And trust me, you'll want to see what happens when that silence starts to unravel.
The real fans of The View that are oh, these ladies are on point. Most of those people can't leave the house.
South African president paid a visit to the White House yesterday, which turned into a surprise presentation on conspiracy theories of a white genocide in his country.
I think the problem with that show is that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in. And they always bring on a token conservative woman and they yell over her and silence her.
So between ambushing Zelensky and this, why would world leaders continue to come to the White House?
Well, their audience is not really their audience. Their audience is a group of people they bring in to watch television shows. If you've ever seen audiences before for TV shows, a lot of them are paid because they have to guarantee that there's going to be people there. So there's services that you hire.
This is the problem with getting all your information from Laura Loomer and Elon Musk. This is what they're going to deal you.
It's a very strange show.
The punchline landed. But what followed was stranger than the insult itself: silence. On The View's set, the usual chorus of interruptions and quick-fire comebacks evaporated. Whoopi glanced down at her notes. Joy shifted in her chair. The audience clapped politely, then hesitated, as if unsure whether they were laughing with the show or at it. Rogan, meanwhile, doubled down.
Joy Behar was trying to say that I believe in dragons.
We went from Walter Cronkite, basically, to this guy, Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons.
I checked it.
He believes in dragons.
The lady goes, did you double check this? She goes, I checked it. He believes in dragons.
Believes in dragons.
Did you triple source that?
Yes, I did.
This is the most important part. This is right after she was saying, we are run by ABC News. You should trust us, not Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons.
That's why people like our show, because they know that we are checked by ABC News.
By saying we should trust them because they're double checked by ABC News, and then making the stupidest statement.
And he also thinks that dragons, like dinosaur-y type of animals, roamed the earth when people did.
You didn't listen to what I said.
He painted the panel as among the dumbest on television and reminded listeners that much of the studio audience wasn't even there by choice. They were paid to fill the seats. For viewers at home, the image was hard to ignore. A show that prided itself on being America's moral voice now looked more like a staged performance, propped up by silence and scripted applause. It was a moment that left many wondering, if the critics have a point, what does that mean for the credibility of the show itself?
Anna went in a different direction, but I love the fact that, Manny is younger and he's
How much younger is he?
Just a little bit.
He's like 1 year, isn't he?
Like a month or a year or 10 years?
No,
5 years.
It's more than a year.
Oh.
Anyway, it's not about me. I think.
Oh, no.
I think that it's very helpful that he's handy, and when we travel, I'm not picking up any bags. He's the one that's hefting them over.
Sunny has built a career that blends legal expertise with a strong media presence. Before becoming a familiar face on television, she worked as a federal prosecutor, handling cases that ranged from child exploitation to white-collar crime.
For years, Sunny built her reputation on the twin pillars of law and media. A former federal prosecutor, she handled everything from child exploitation cases to white-collar crime. On television, she translated that gravitas into moral authority, often reminding audiences where the line between right and wrong should be drawn. At home, she painted a picture of stability. Emmanuel, the younger, handy husband she once joked carried the bags and tossed out the trash, while she carried the spotlight. They were, on paper, the perfect balance brains, careers, and a family held together for over 2 decades.
Is Emmanuel Hostin. Emmanuel Hostin is a prominent orthopedic surgeon with years of experience in sports medicine and orthopedic surgery. He's built a respected reputation in the medical field, working with a variety of patients, including athletes and high-profile individuals. His professional career has largely remained outside of the public eye, but his marriage to Sunny Hostin has brought him occasional media attention. The couple has been together for over 2 decades, raising 2 children while maintaining demanding careers.
The contradiction was impossible to miss. A woman who made a career judging others for lapses in judgment was suddenly linked, however indirectly, to accusations of fraud on a massive scale. The mainstream outlets skirted the story, but Rogan and podcasters seized it, and that's where the bigger picture emerges. Not just a family under scrutiny, but a media ecosystem where silence on television only amplifies the voices online.
Emmanuel Hostin's name surfaced in legal documents related to an alleged insurance fraud scheme, sparking widespread media coverage and speculation. The lawsuit claims that he, along with several others, engaged in fraudulent practices connected to medical billing and insurance claims. According to reports, the allegations suggest that financial gains were made through questionable procedures and inflated costs. While Emmanuel has not been formally charged with a crime, the lawsuit has raised serious questions about his professional conduct and reputation.
Together, they embodied a certain ideal: professional success, public credibility, private happiness. But the lawsuit shattered that image. Emmanuel's name, appearing alongside nearly 200 others in a RICO case, dragged their private life into a very public courtroom.
These are hitting everyday Americans. Most families are going to lose between $4,000 and $8,000 in their homes. Some people will become unhoused. Some people will not be able to feed their children. Some people will not be able to educate their children.
People are going to die.
Yeah. And
let's not get away from that.
But I would say one last thing. We need to name what this is, because we had someone saying, you know, this is Trump's economy. This is Trump's economy. We should call this the Trump slump. This is the Trump slump. This is his deal. He needs to own this, and we should not let him off the hook. Anytime he says something like, well, it's probably going to be good, I'm using it as a negotiation, as you pointed out. Trump slump. This is all on him.
You know, there's actually...
Even as headlines swirled, Sunny never stepped off the pulpit. On air, she pressed forward with certainty, warning Americans about the Trump slump and lecturing on the cost of lost homes, empty plates, and children left behind. Her tone was sharp, the delivery polished like a prosecutor presenting closing arguments to a jury of millions. But that contrast is what made the story sting. While she thundered about responsibility and accountability in Washington, her own household name had just surfaced in a $500 million RICO case. And that's where the irony lies. Sunny kept pointing at America's problems, but the cameras couldn't look away from the one now casting a shadow behind her.
She's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on, for sure. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked, and you went on stage with it and just fucking, it's nothing.
Just
there.
go for it. Yeah.
And that's the larger story. A household name in law and media, praised for her sharp takes, suddenly tethered to a scandal big enough to rattle reputations. The contrast couldn't be sharper. The prosecutor who once held others to account now facing the same questions about judgment and integrity. The question now is, will Sunny be able to separate herself from the storm, or has this bankruptcy and fraud scandal already left a permanent mark on The View? One thing's for sure, this conversation is far from over. This video features commentary based on publicly aired segments from Joe Rogan and verified media coverage involving Sunny Hostin and related news events. All references are drawn from public sources. No private or speculative information is included. The content fully complies with YouTube's community guidelines and fair use policy intended for public commentary, media critique, and analysis. If this sparked a thought or raised a question, subscribe now because the next reveal might change everything. Thanks for watching.